Evening members, please rise for the Chair of Thanet District Council.
Good evening, councillors and officers of the council and members of the press and public. I welcome you to this meeting of the council. If the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices via the stairs, either through the security doors to my right or opposite the lifts in the foyer. Please do not use the lifts. Please assemble in Hawley Square on the green. Officers will assist you and advise when it's deemed safe to return to the chamber. I would advise that if filming takes place, anyone in attendance in the public areas may have their image captured. I urge anyone filming proceedings to avoid filming members of the public, particularly if there are children present. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? Thank you. If any member of the public who objects to the possibility of being filmed may wish to take this opportunity to leave the meeting. Any filming or recording will not be permitted for any item of business where exempt or confidential information is considered following the exclusion of the press and public from the meeting. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. Hello, viewers at home. Would everyone present please ensure that their mobile phones are turned off or to silent and they are not used to make or receive phone calls whilst this meeting is in progress. Item number 1 then. I would like to introduce you to Lisa Moulton here. She's an officer. It's her first council meeting, so please be kind to her. I told her all you were very charming and very nice. So welcome, Lisa, to our meeting. Item agenda 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillors Alban, Dabro, Crittenden and Paul Moore. Are there any more? Thank you.
Apologies from Councillor Barlow and Councillor Packman.
Thank you. Are there any more? Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 27th of February 2025 be approved and signed as a correct record. Would the Vice Chair please second?
Seconded.
Do councillors agree? Thank you very much. Item 3, announcements. I have received no announcements. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest on this occasion? Item 5, petitions. I have received no petitions. Are we practicing for Panto Christmas? No petitions have been received in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 12. Item 6, questions from the press and public. 2 questions have been received from the press and public in accordance with Council Procedure Rule number 13. So let's kick off. Question from a member of the public regarding Thanet's BMV farmland. I'm pleased to welcome Ms. Brown. Ms. Brown, where are you? Hello, would you like to make your way over to the microphone? Get yourself comfortable, and when you're ready, ask your question.
Good evening, I'm Jackie Brown from the Westgate and Garden Injection Group, and my question is around completed houses on land with planning permission granted, and this is to Councillor Whitehead, please. Over the past 5 years, TGC's planning team and committee has approved many planning applications for large and small developments, much of it on Thanet's best and most versatile farmland. What are the figures today for houses built so far to be completed, and how many applications have not even been started? And that's Councillor Whitehead, please.
Thank you. I do believe it is a question to the leader, so Councillor Rick Everett's going to answer.
Oh, okay.
Would you turn your microphone off, please, Ms.
Yeah.
Brown? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Ms. Brown. Sorry you've got me answering, but I am the Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Planning. So, up to the 31st of March 2024, there have been 5,398 dwelling completions. A further 2,661 units were under construction, and 159 planning permissions had not been started at that date. I can't tell you how many of those were on farmland, but I think we can assume it wasn't all of them. That's the information. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from a member of the public regarding Thanet's housing targets. I'm pleased to welcome Miss McCourt. Miss McCourt, where are you? Hello. You take a seat too. Would you like to make your way? You have. And ask your question when you're ready.
Been here before, sorry. Okay, my name is Sally McCourt. I'm the Vice Chair of Westgate and Garden Action Group Against Housing on Farmland. And my question is, Thanet District Council has acknowledged in the past that Thanet's housing targets are over-predicted at 17,140. ONS data figures show how Thanet has in fact a negative population increase with low falling birth rates, high and rising death rates, and inward and outward migration to and from the district being stagnant. We seem to be continually chasing these housing targets, but never actually achieving them. Windfall sites outside the local plan are given permissions across Thanet, including building on our BMV farmland. How are these windfall sites contributing to the diminishing of our housing targets, please?
Thank you. Councillor Everett, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Ms. McCall, for your question. Good news. All windfall developments are counted towards housing land supply. The adopted local plan includes a windfall allowance of 225 units per year to contribute to housing land supply based on previous delivery, which have been largely on brownfield sites. Up to the 31st of March 2024, 3,801 windfall units have been completed, and these are included in the housing land supply calculations. We have calculated that of the 3,801 windfall units, 2,729 were on brownfield land. That is 72% of them. It's estimated that windfall sites will contribute a further 1,125 units by the end of the plan period in 2031. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from councillors. 5 questions have been received from councillors in accordance with Council Procedure Rule number 14. The time allowed for consideration of questions from councillors shall not exceed 30 minutes. Councillors, please will you be as concise as possible. So, a question from Councillor Pugh regarding sea shelters.
Thank you, Chair. My question was originally for Councillor Orban, but as he's not here, I understand that, Leader, it's your lucky day, so you're going to be answering my question and probably many others. It is great news that the Nayland Rock Shelter has been refurbished, but we still have many sea shelters along our coastline that are in a terrible state of disrepair. Can the Leader explain what the plan is to bring these shelters back into use?
Councillor Everett, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I can probably do a better impression of Councillor Alban than I can of Councillor Whitehead. So at least that's something.
Not sure what to take.
A shelters working group was formed in 2023 to consider the sustainability of coastal shelters. This has led to a recommendation to fund the refurbishment of two of the most dilapidated shelters on the Thanet coastline at Westbrook and Palm Bay. A budget of £80,000 was approved for this purpose last month as part of the 25-26 General Fund budget. Work to procure the refurbishment of these two shelters will commence in April. The budget next year also includes a sum of £40,000 for the adoption and refurbishment of the Colonnade shelter on Marine Drive in Margate. The working group will continue to consider solutions for other shelters across the district, including seeking funding for works where appropriate.
Councillor Pugh, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Chair, I do. I thank the Leader for his response, and it's great to hear that progress is being made. But I'm sure I'm not the only one in this chamber that, or many will share my frustration that it's taken this long for anything really to happen. If a working group was set up in 2023 and we're now only coming to the decision to start putting some money into refurbishing two shelters across our district, then that's incredibly disappointing. I myself, and I know Councillor Towning has previously, approached officers on many occasions to ask questions of sea shelters across our coast, particularly in Palm Bay. So my question is that why has this taken so long, and can it be that actually there's a better and improved relationship between councillors and officers? Because if some are receiving the information on this or work is going on behind the scenes, it's not being communicated to the people that care and are just asking the questions.
Councillor Everett.
Well, I could say that one factor in the delay could be the budget for 2023-24, which was set by Councillor Pugh and his party. So presumably if they wanted to allocate a lot more money into shelters in that year, they could have done. I mean, the reality is we don't have an unlimited budget and we have to prioritise where we spend money. I'm satisfied that we're making good progress, and we've demonstrated good progress in the answer we've made this afternoon, and no doubt we'll want to make more progress and talk about it in future budget rounds.
Thank you. Now we have a question from Councillor Crittenden regarding community excuse me, and heritage assets. As the questioner is not present at the meeting, a response will be given in writing. A question from Councillor W. Scobie regarding the Council's Director and Officer Insurance. Councillor Scobie.
One of the gripping issues, I'm sure, for this Council meeting. Can the Cabinet Member please provide an overview of the Council's Director and Officer Insurance, specifically in relation to employment disputes and compensation, including financial limits? And could the Cabinet Member also confirm if this policy has been triggered in the last 6 years with regards to employment disputes and compensation?
Councillor Yates, would you like to respond?
And apologies, Councillor Scobie, for having my back turned towards you, but for the microphone's benefit, I think I'll do it this way. So the Council has both professional indemnity insurance and officials indemnity insurance. Professional indemnity insurance covers alleged negligence or errors in professional services, which result in financial loss later down the line that is not expected. And officials insurance covers TDC for wrongful acts committed by officers, which can include breach of trust, breach of duty, neglect, error, misleading statements or wrongful trading. This insurance costs the Council £7,000 a year and has a £2 million financial limit. I can confirm that neither our professional indemnity cover or officials insurance has been triggered in the last 6 years in relation to employment disputes and compensation. So that answers the questions, but I'll just give a bit more detail, as I imagine there might be more questions. The Council now has a strong in-house HR team, both operationally and advisory. ensuring legal compliance and promoting fairness and consistency in employee relations and decision making. To minimise legal risks and protect the Council, the role of Employee Relations Lead was created 2 years ago, which works closely with the Head of HR, and in the event that external legal support is required, we engage with the local legal firm, thus benefiting from lower costs. If we were to get director insurance that covered potential settlements, then it is highly likely that we would be reliant on following their HR and legal advice from that insurance specialist we were covered by. We would therefore be compelled to outsource our HR and legal advice to that insurance specialist for any serious matters to be eligible for any claims to be successful. Given our in-house support, this is not something we are considering, though we understand why smaller companies without this in-house knowledge may take out such insurance. In addition, I'm very confident in the new management structure headed up by Chief Executive Colin Carmichael, and I'm proud that under this new leadership, we have taken on board all of the IMO recommendations and have recently been nominated for Most Improved Council of the Year award. So even if this council did procure this insurance, which is not common in local government circles, and therefore we outsource the decision making to the HR and legal advice of our insurers, then I would suggest the cost of doing this is likely to outweigh the risk of us having such serious incidents in the future, given where we are now compared with where we were 5 years ago. Thank you.
Councillor Scobie, do you have a supplementary question?
Many, Chair, but I will try and keep it to one. The rationale behind this, Chair, is just that I have a concern that the Council should have had an insurance policy in place when we had a number of employment complaints in the past, and my concern and the reason for the questions is that I don't think that is in place, and I respect the answer from Councillor Yates. So my question is, can you confirm, therefore, that across all of our insurance policies, so I've asked this question a number of times, there is no employment practices liability, and are you confirming that it is the Council's intention not to put that in place, even though, as an organisation, I take your point around it not necessarily being common in local government, but it is a risk that has impacted us quite significantly over the last few years, having a number of high-profile legal and HR issues to deal with. Can you confirm that it's not in our plans to do that? And I'll happily take those in writing if that's easier, because I know particularly the first one on employment practices liability, it might be better to take that in writing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Scobie. Yes, I'd prefer, if possible, just to send that full answer in writing, just so it's nice and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. A question from Councillor Fellows regarding housing targets. Councillor Fellows.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to the Leader. Thanet has missed its housing targets set by central government. It appears that missing these targets has resulted in Thanet being placed in a very difficult position when it comes to refusing applications for housing developments. A recent developer's appeal was overturned by the planning inspector, and his report indicated that there was a failure to complete a sequential approach by the applicant when justifying the loss of best and most versatile farmland. Apparently the applicant had indicated that as 91% of the land in Thanet is best and most versatile land, TDC has to allow the loss of farmland in order to achieve its housing targets. So my question is to the Leader, how many houses remain outstanding against the current housing target, and when, if ever, will Thanet reach its target?
Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Councillor Fellows, for your question. I think it's probably worth saying that you don't actually have to reach the target in order to avoid the imposition of the presumption of approval. There's a threshold, which I think is 80% off the top of my head. As at March 2024, there were 9,006 units, that is, local plan allocations and planning permissions, not started. There were 2,661 units under construction at this point. At present, of the 9,006 units not started, there are over 5,500 units that are subject of live planning applications at different stages. The future housing delivery trajectory is reviewed every year, but the Council has no control over when housing sites are actually delivered, and the Council relies on information provided by site agents and developers. Delivery rates are affected by a number of different factors, most of which are outside the Council's control.
Councillor Fellows, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Chair. Given the constraints of our housing targets and the fact that the Thanet land is made up of 91% of best and most versatile farmland, What is being done by the officers and our leader in order to protect the farmland from further loss of Grade 1 and 2 farmland to applications for house building?
Councillor Everett.
Well, Councillor Fellows will be aware that that is part of the process of drawing up the next local plan. Protecting best and most versatile farmland is a priority for this council, but we have other priorities, including providing housing for our residents and meeting the targets that we're set by government and punished for not meeting if we don't achieve them, even though they're not under our control. It's not an easy subject, as he will acknowledge, I'm sure.
Thank you. Question from Councillor Braidwood regarding housing applications and the local plan. Councillor Braidwood.
Thanet is losing its best and most versatile farmland to housing at an alarming rate. As our constituents go about their business, they see every day development after development underway. As the building continues and services are upgraded or installed, they experience increased traffic and accidents, road closures and delays to journeys.
Councillor Braidwood, can you hang on a second? It's not the question we have here.
Yeah, I'm leading on to the question.
You only use the words of your question, please.
Okay. I know how to read a question, Councillor Bright. Thank you for letting me know that. Thank you. How are developers able to submit plans for a housing application on land greater than that allocated in the local plan?
That's the one. Thank you. Councillor Everett.
Well, you've been here a few years, Councillor Bray, but I'm surprised that you don't know that an applicant can submit planning applications for any land in the district, irrespective of whether they're allocated for development in the local plan or not. The Council will then determine the application with regard to the local plan and national policy and guidance, but the applicant isn't obliged to take it into account.
Councillor Braidwood, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Chair. How has the application for 2,000 houses at Westgate and Garlinge on our best and most versatile farmland, Grade 1 and 2, been enabled to grow from an original offer from the call for sites of 10 to 40 hectares, then increase to 76 hectares, and then again further increase to 116 hectares?
Councillor Everett.
I think Councillor Bray was asking me to comment on a live planning application, which isn't appropriate, but in any event, it wouldn't be a matter for me, it would be a matter for the applicant.
Thank you. Notice of motions. No new notices of motion have been received in accordance with Council Procedure Rule number 3. So we go on to the Leader's report. Call upon the Leader.
I'll be worth me sitting down, Chair, wouldn't it? Last Thursday, we took the decision to appoint Westwood One as our preferred partner for the refurbishment and reopening of the Winter Gardens. I said to Cabinet that the approach we've taken on this project is ambitious, prudent and professional. I listened to the views expressed about this decision at Overview and Scrutiny the previous week, and I welcome the debate there because it allowed various issues to be aired and officers to correct some misunderstandings. In reality, officers and Cabinet have looked long and hard at this decision, because bringing back the Winter Gardens as a leisure and entertainment venue is not straightforward. But I am confident that it is what the public wants the Council to do. We are fortunate that in Westwood One we have found a local firm that understands the importance of the Winter Gardens and recognises the need to make the building accessible to the local community and sustainable through a variety of commercial activities. We can also see the evidence of what they've done at the Granville Theatre in Ramsgate, which gives them public credibility. And from the outset, I was impressed by their energy and enthusiasm towards the Winter Gardens. Nevertheless, this project is considerably bigger in scale and much more challenging than the Granville in that it involves a very complicated listed building. We have taken detailed expert advice about what Westwood One need to do to achieve a viable future for the Winter Gardens, and we will work with them to ensure that their business plan and designs are what we need before we proceed to contract with them. We are not naive about the challenges of the marketplace in which the Winter Gardens will operate. Nevertheless, this is a significant moment in its story, and I would like to thank Westwood One for their willingness to come on board. I would also like to thank officers in our property and regeneration teams for all the work that has gone on to get us to this stage, and particularly the Director of Place who's been leading on it. We have identified working with Westwood One as our preferred route to reopen the venue, and the one that has the potential to provide the best outcome for taxpayers and the Council. And I hope that by the time of the next Ordinary Council in July, we will be able to report further progress. Another project that is close to many people's hearts is the repair of the Madeira Walk waterfall, the cost of which was agreed by Council 4 weeks ago. I'm delighted that we were able to start work there even before the beginning of the new financial year, and I look forward to seeing this signature feature of Ramsgate back in action. I can also report that we now have a date for a start on replacing the lifts at Ramsgate's Leopold Street car park, with work due to get underway at the beginning of June. It's likely to take 3 months. We're making progress on various initiatives to improve sports facilities in the district. The Council has submitted expressions of interest towards obtaining grant funding in conjunction with local football clubs for substantial investment in 3 locations in Margate, and plans are in hand to have the new temporary pavilion at Jackie Baker's in situ this summer. The Head of Open Spaces and Councillor Alban and I have also been working behind the scenes to support Thanet Athletics Club over the future of the athletics facilities at the nearby Royal Harbour Academy, which are the subject of a community use agreement with this council. The latter is particularly important as it provides a unique opportunity for the district's young people, but outdoor sports facilities in general benefit a wider age group, and we will do what we can to support a healthier lifestyle for all our communities. Kent County Council recently advised Pie Factory in Ramsgate and the Sarah Thorne Theatre in Broadstairs that it intends to auction the buildings from which they operate. In fact, this was due to happen imminently, but has now been deferred until June. From my perspective, this is social and cultural vandalism. In the case of Pie Factory, there is an offer on the table from the tenants and there are planning constraints on the use of the site, but it appears that the County Council places no value on supporting the valuable interventions currently provided. In the case of the Millmead Family Hub, a building owned by this council, I welcome the recent reprieve by KCC in terms of funding for next year. But again, the County Council has caused much local anxiety with little apparent regard for the needs of the community. It is my hope that the life of all these institutions will exceed that of Kent County Council. Something that is not KCC's fault, but is nonetheless caused by it, is the fact that its election period means we are unable, on legal advice, to undertake a number of pending consultations before May. These include the one on the new Alcohol and Antisocial Behaviour PSPO, which was the subject of much misinformation and mischief making when it previously came forward last year. I don't say it was perfect then, I do say that much reporting about it was inaccurate. I believe this PSPO is an important tool in the armoury against some of the problems that blight our community in Thanet, and I'm grateful to councillors from across the main political groups who have provided evidence to support it, as well as to Councillor Keane and the relevant officers for their work on it. Cabinet has agreed to proceed to the consultation stage, and of course we will want to hear from and incorporate where appropriate the genuine concerns and views of residents and others before it comes forward for decision. I know that Councillor Whitehead is also keen to progress consultation on our proposed new housing allocations policy, but like a number of others, that is also on hold until after the election. Councillors who attended the recent internal briefing on our beach management plans for the summer, and separately the improvements we are making to the way councillors and officers work together behind the scenes, were unanimous in their praise for what they heard. The extent of Thanet's coastline and the behaviour of some of our visitors will always pose challenges, but I think everyone could see the hard work and careful thought that has gone into it, not just for this season, but building on what was introduced and worked last year. The test, of course, will come with the warmer weather, now arriving, hopefully, but I pay tribute to all the officers who have been involved in planning the measures that are being put in place. It was a hugely positive briefing. On March the 12th, representatives from Thanet's voluntary, community and social enterprise groups got together in Broadstairs for the Thanet Community Champions Awards. These awards honoured individuals and organisations making a real difference in their communities. A total of 157 nominations were received, with the winning entries selected by a panel including the mayors of Margate and Broadstairs, Councillor Duckworth as Cabinet Member for Regeneration and Property, and the Chief Executive of Social Enterprise Kent, Rebecca Smith. I know that you, Chair, were among those who attended the event and were very impressed by what you heard, along with a selection of councillors and the former leader Iris Johnston. and I believe one or two tears were shed by various people in response to what they heard. Not only did you share your enthusiasm for the event directly with me, Chair, but you also popped up unexpectedly on my living room TV to tell me about it, through the Council's YouTube feed in a bespoke video, thanks to the work of the comms team. In any event, the conference and awards were a heartwarming occasion and showed the strength that we have in our community. The event was supported by funding from the Shared Prosperity Fund, the provisions of which for 25-26 were considered by Cabinet last week. And as I said then, it's a technical sounding initiative, but one which is delivering real benefits to local people. Celebrating these achievements certainly fits that description. And I'm sure that the whole Council would want to say well done to everyone concerned.
Thank you. Councillor Pugh, do you have any questions or would you like to comment on the Leader's report?
I do, Chair. Thank you. I'd first like to comment. It's great to hear that you were on Councillor Everett's TV, albeit if he was streaming the council services. What I would say to the Leader is that although it is important that he's involved and he understands what's going on, he doesn't have to have the feed for council proceedings on constantly at home. I'm sure that's not fair on his good wife or anyone. It's probably watched a bit more sport. Anyway, I've got a few questions, so I'll try and be brief. I thank the Leader for citing the key themes of his report ahead of this meeting. I'd like to comment on the decision that was made at Cabinet last week to proceed with Westwood One as the preferred operators / bidders for the Winter Gardens. I'm not going to rehash over what I said at Cabinet last week. I don't think anyone wants to hear me wax lyrical about it again, but it's safe to say that I'm delighted that Westwood One have been chosen and have been put forward. I think it's a testament to their hard work that they've done at the Granville Theatre. They've proved a lot of people wrong in what they've done there, and if they can do even half of the work that they've done at the Granville to the Winter Gardens, I think we'll all be incredibly very lucky. The questions I have relating to that is that it's clear that the process that has been followed in looking for a new operator for the Winter Gardens, and we as the previous administration are not going to take credit for that. It's been something that has spanned over a number of administrations, but it's good to see that processes have improved and that we're getting to the point where when we are looking for people to take over or operate buildings that we currently own, whether that be on a long lease or to relinquish or to sell the freehold, it's welcoming news and to see that progress is being made and that we're consistently now following proper processes and making the right decisions, and that we're starting to reap the benefits for that as an entire district. So I've already mentioned the Granville. The Logia building is a prime example. I know that not much work has gone onto it yet, and I don't want to try and praise this Labour administration too much, but what I would say is that the process that was followed for that is a testament again to what is happening. The question that I have for the Leader is that whilst this is all welcome news, and I've asked a question earlier about the sea shelters, and all of us will be very aware that there are many other assets that the council owns out there that are in a dire need of disrepair and a state where they need to be renovated. So what I would ask is, would the Leader support the creation of a new committee, whether that be not necessarily as part of scrutiny, but a separate committee that is charged with councillors being able to scrutinise and look into the lease arrangements and the conditions of many of our properties and buildings, so that we can provide, as councillors, a level of openness and transparency and scrutiny to the process to ensure that actually things are being progressed and things are moving on. Because as I said earlier of the sea shelters, irrespective of who was in control in 2023 or before that or not, it's that many of these buildings are decaying, they're breaking down. There was an incident in the Theatre Royal, which I'm not going to reveal now, but that is in need of huge repairs. So I'd like to ask if the Leader will commit to supporting that. It's welcome news to hear about the Madeira Walk waterfall and of course the pavilion at Jackie Baker's. The question that I have particularly about the pavilion and other sports facilities is what guarantees the Leader can give that any sports facilities that are renovated, and then if they're not managed directly by us, but we then seek other operators to manage them, what efforts will be made to ensure that actually we try and take a bit of a step out of similar to what the Preston model is, and we try and ensure that where possible it's local operators that run these assets and these facilities, rather than as we've had in previous instances where local people that run things such as tennis courts then lose out by half a point on the scoring matrix to a company that's based in the Midlands. It's welcome news about the Millmead Family Hub. I think it's clear from when it was brought as a motion to full council many months ago, the strength of feeling across the chamber on that. So I'm not going to say any more about that. The alcohol and antisocial behaviour, PSPO, the leader can wax lyrical about how it was frustrating and people were playing games when the amended version was brought forward before. That's not the case. Our responsibilities and roles as councillors is to scrutinise, it's to raise our concerns if we're not comfortable with things. And what I would say is that the PSPO that is now being brought forward is a huge improvement on what was suggested before. If it's not worth doing, if it's only worth doing if you do it right, and that wasn't worth doing at all. So we stand by that decision and the views that we made at the time. It's welcome news about the reaction to the beach management briefing, as I'm sure everyone will attest to, and also to the councillor officer relationship building as well. I think it goes back to what I said earlier, is that there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still instances where communication isn't where it needs to be. And so that's something that not just us as councillors, but officers and the administration, we all need to continue to work on. But thank you.
Leader, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I don't know if Councillor Pugh's familiar with YouTube, but I mean, it doesn't just necessarily offer up things that you ask it for. I mean, it may well be that I have looked at a few council meetings on YouTube over the years, but I can assure him I spend most of my time looking at other things which are not related to this council. But the algorithm works to tell you to bring up things you might be interested in, and I think that's actually quite important, because that's what the work that the comms team are doing. They're putting up content there that people who are interested in Thanet will find. Not just videos of council meetings, but actual information about what's going on in the district. That's why I thought that the appearance of Councillor Owen Hughes on my television was so interesting and relevant, because other people will have had the same experience. Yeah, I think that what you're proposing in terms of scrutinising leases, etc., is a perfectly valid function of the overview and scrutiny system. That you've got the chair of overview and scrutiny. There's nothing to stop you bringing forward a proposal for that. And I don't think we'd oppose it on political grounds. It should be considered on its own merits. I can tell you that the Theatre Royal has now been made watertight, which I'm sure we're all relieved about. So that is some progress on that one. In terms of local facilities and handing them over to third parties, what we're doing in relation to the pavilions is it's an expression of interest for something called the Home Advantage programme, which is funded through the football authorities. It involves leasing out the facilities, and the leases that we're discussing, or we will bring forward if we actually get a positive response on the funding, are with major local clubs. So I don't think there's any challenge around that. They're not clubs which are likely to go away, because they owe their entire existence to being in Thanet. All I would say about the PSPO is, yes, genuine challenge and proper discussion. Silly articles, and I'm not blaming the Conservative group for this, silly articles in the national press about the fact that there were things in the PSPO which had been in the previous PSPO, introduced by the Conservative group, did nobody any good. They just damaged Thanet's reputation. And we all know that Conservative members conspired to bring down a barrister from an external group to speak at our meetings who had nothing to do with Thanet. It was a lot more than proper challenge from opposition councillors, but we'll take on board whatever comments are made.
Thank you. Just as an aside, you may remember last year when Councillor Scobie nominated me to be the chair, he did say that I had been researching the meetings on YouTube, and I would challenge anyone here that's, if you think you've seen more meetings than me, I've seen you all. Since 1849, I've seen you all. Councillor Garner, would you like to comment on or ask questions in relation to the leader's report?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to the leader, again, for letting us know the subjects that he planned to talk about this evening. And I'm going to focus on a couple of them with, I think, a couple of questions in there. I've made so many changes, I'm not quite sure if they're still there. The inaugural Thanet Community Awards a couple of weeks ago at the Broadstairs Pavilion was indeed an excellent event that I was fortunate to be able to attend. It was inspiring to hear the stories behind so many of the volunteer groups and individuals who were there that do such great work in the district. Talking to a number of the attendees during the afternoon, one of the themes that came through was that their success depends on working with others, working with other groups operating in similar areas and with local businesses and with town and parish councils. Collaboration for them is key. Congratulations and thank you to them all. I wasn't able personally to attend the beach management briefing or the councillor officer briefings, though my colleagues who did attend were impressed with what they heard at both of them. Good progress has been made to improve the way of working between officers and councillors. Certainly those of us who were here under the previous regime can account for that. We're grateful to all officers and councillors who've worked hard to get us to where we are now, which is on the road to becoming a well-functioning council that we can all be proud of. We're pleased to hear that we now seem to be on the path to the successful reopening of the Winter Gardens. This is good news, and I wish Westwood One all the best in achieving this goal, working with us. I'm sure we will all be paying close attention to the plans as they develop and to the goals being achieved in a timely and cost-beneficial way. Can we please make sure that when it reopens, doesn't result in an increase in fly posting in Margate, similar to the one we've seen in Ramsgate over the last few years. Moving on to KCC's wrong-headed plans to sell key community assets and or to close them across Thanet. It seems the only attention the authority has recently given to our district is when they're looking for assets, especially those that are needed and well used by our community, to close or to sell. Poverty data on Kent County Council's own portal paints a stark picture of the challenges faced by many people living in Thanet, a situation within which many young people find themselves, made worse by the fact that here in Thanet they also suffer from a poverty of opportunity. Firstly, it's great news that the Millmead Family Hub has been saved and will remain open for at least another year. KCC's decision to close it in the first place was wrong on so many levels. The fight to keep it open has been hard fought, and much credit should go to everyone from across the community who fought hard to save it. At the pie factory, the fight goes on. Zoe and the team at the pie factory are a beacon of hope for young people across Thanet, one of the few places where young people do get the opportunity to develop, and the political choice made by KCC to close it in the first place was a disgrace. I'm pleased to hear earlier today that the planned for auction during the election campaign has been postponed. To have even contemplated selling it during an election campaign was outrageous. I know that the 3 ward councillors, Central Harbour ward councillors, have written to KCC calling for the auction to be immediately halted, and I'm glad they've listened to them and all other campaigners who've done the same. The loss of the last remaining youth centre in Thanet would be disastrous for our young people who all deserve better. Young people from across Thanet are impacted, not just Ramsgate, young people who travel from right across the district to attend the centre. The situation with the Sarah Thorne Theatre is similar to that facing the pie factory. When talking about the Sarah Thorne, we need to remember that the Memorial Hall it's based in is called the Memorial Hall for a reason. It was built by public subscription from the residents of the town after the Second World War to remember those who gave their lives in Broadstairs and St Peters. To sell it for private development is akin to selling any of our other war memorials for short-term gain, fundamentally wrong. The theatre is an important community venue, well used by everyone in the town and the surrounding area. Michael Wheatley-Ward and his team of enthusiastic volunteers work hard to make sure that the venue has survived and thrived. As well as attracting touring companies from around the country, I'll be very quick. It also enables other local theatre and music groups to put on performances. I know this only too well, as in January over 100 people attended the charity gig we put on there to raise money for, among others, the aforementioned pie factory. And we managed to break a record, the first event there to see them sell out all their beer. All 15, I'll move on to the end. Each of these 3 KCC assets mentioned need to be secured with a long-term future for the benefit of our communities. All of us need to make sure we do all we can to make sure this happens. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the leader to respond.
Thank you, Councillor Garner, for your comments. And I note your remarks around the pie factory and the Sarah Thorne Theatre. I mean, I will say that this council has been involved, particularly in the battle to save the pie factory's occupancy of that building since the outset. Cabinet members and officers have been there. Officers are continuously advising the Chief Exec about the best way to approach KCC and to deal with what KCC are putting forward. And I know that Polly Billington MP has also been actively involved in lobbying KCC. So I think we should not sort of try and claim this for any one political party or particular set of poor councillors. What I'll say is that this council is, what I will say is that this council is using its resources to the greatest extent that it can to protect the future of Pie Factory, and we will continue to do so. In respect to the fly tipping issue, that's been raised with me by a number of councillors, most recently by Councillor Austin. I can say that this afternoon we've had a brief presentation from Ms Brown, the head of legal, on the council's legal powers in this area, and we're going to further bring forward a policy and bring it to a members' briefing so that everybody can hear what the situation is and what we can do about it. We recognise there's a problem. We recognise there are one or two organisations whose names are on a lot of these bills, but we also think that these bills are being posted by the promoters of the event rather than the actual venue, which makes it more difficult to tackle. We recognise it as a difficulty. We will come forward with some proposals.
Councillor Warrow, would you like to comment on or ask questions in relation to the Leader's report?
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Leader. Good evening, members. Yes, I would. Yeah. Thanet Independents welcome the news that a company has been found to run the Winter Gardens. We are, however, concerned about the term of the lease. Surely a lease of 1,000 years is the equivalent of giving away the freehold of the Winter Gardens, which undermines the Leader's 2023 promise that the council will never sell off the Winter Gardens. What a performance. What a pantomime. What hypocrisy. When the Leader talks about Ramsgate, he says nothing about a failed £4 million project, the return of a ro-ro ferry to the town's pool. Not a single Jolly Jack tar did this well-touted business opportunity attract. Now that his ship has sailed...
Councillor Warrow, we're responding to the Leader's report.
And I am responding to the Leader's report with the limited information I've got. OK? I know you don't like opposition, but we live in a democracy.
No, I'm telling you, you're responding to the Leader's report.
And if the Leader wants to give us a comprehensive report like he used to, then he will get a more
in this meeting, Councillor Warrow, you will respond to the Leader's report.
This goes against the principles of democracy and free speech, which is typical of this administration. We see that the Leader's swearing tax, which made Thanet a national laughingstock, returns virtually unchanged from its original version. Why can't the Leader accept that his swearing tax is unwanted, undemocratic and unnecessary? It is a shame there are no laws preventing a council leader from duplicating the work of the police or for introducing rules which will inevitably be challenged and overturned in the courts at the cost of the council taxpayer. The party opposite credits itself with the temporary saving of the Millmead hub. But everyone knows that it was independent KCC Councillor Barry Lewis who did all the heavy lifting and the behind-the-scenes negotiation which led to the Millmead reprieve. Seeking to steal Barry's achievements and to dress it up as their own is shameful opportunism from Labour, which would be punished at the forthcoming Kent County Council elections. Well, all I can say is, everything I said is true. I've got other things that I want to say, but free speech is being suppressed in this council chamber. And if the Leader continues just to give headlines and not a comprehensive sight of his report, then he won't get things exactly how he's put them out. Thanet Independents want to give competition. We want to give opposition. This is a democracy. This isn't a place where we just tell the leader how wonderful he is. This is where we hold the leader to account for the people that elected us in the Isle of Thanet. Thank you.
When you turn up at
Well said, John. Well said. That is fine. That's absolutely fine.
Councillor Everett, would you like to respond?
Well, I mean, we were talking about the YouTube channel. I mean, I invite people watching the YouTube channel to listen to Councillor Worrow's performance, because it is a performance and it's not very credible to most of us in this chamber. Let's be clear, the reason why we moved away from distributing the full text of the leader's report, which had been a practice here for a number of years, is because one of the current leaders chose to send it to the press before the meeting. Now, I don't know which one it was, but I'm willing to bet it wasn't Councillor Garner and it wasn't Councillor Pugh. So, Councillor Worrow created this situation and now he complains about it. He clearly wasn't listening earlier when...
You are afraid of democracy and you do not want to be held to account.
Worrow.
Because you are a dictator.
You are a dictator. Councillor Worrow.
I've already said it, it's been recorded. You are a dictator.
Councillor Worrow.
You are a dictator.
Enough. Enough.
No,
enough.
there can never be enough. There can never be enough democracy. There can never be enough accountability.
I move that Councillor Worrow be not heard anymore. Can I please have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you. A vote, please. All those in favour, Councillor Worrow will not be heard any further. Yeah, count it.
Those against?
Those against, please. And those abstaining. That's carried. Councillor Worrow will be heard no further. Annual report of the Chair, an overview and scrutiny panel. I call upon Councillor Fellows to present the report.
Are you going to follow that? Yeah, follow that. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. My annual report has been circulated tonight with tonight's agenda to members to read. I'd just like to add my thanks to members of the scrutiny panel for their work in this last year. There's been some lively discussions across a wide array of subjects, with lots of key decisions coming through the panel and then on to Cabinet. I'd like to thank officers and Cabinet members who came along and gave presentations and took part in the question and answer sessions. I'm sure members feel more informed because of the work the panel is doing, and we look forward to continuing this work over the next year. With regards to Councillor Everett's comments about a review of assets, I'm happy to take that back to the next scrutiny meeting, and then we look to put that on the work programme. Thanks.
Thank you. Do councillors have any comments? Thank you. And your report of the Chair of the... Is that right? Nobody had any comment? And your report of the Chair of the Standards Committee. I call upon Mr Tucker to present the report. Please can you... Hello. Have a seat. Make yourself comfortable.
Thank you, Chair. I understand all members have received a copy of the report, so I'm no intention of reading it out. There's only one thing I want to add, and that is to give my thanks to the monitoring officer, all the staff at Democratic Services, and other independent persons for their support and help during the year, and I'm happy to take any questions from any members.
Thank you. Do anyone have any questions on this item? No? Thank you very much. And your report of the Chair of the Standards Committee. Have I just said that?
You said that one. Governance and Audit.
Annual report of the Chair of the Governance and Audit Committee. I call upon Councillor W. Scobie to present the report.
Well, Chair, I feel like I've been given an amazing opportunity that I get to give my report, and it's not even 8 o'clock, so I could go on and on. But I won't. Yeah. No, don't stop me from talking as well. You're not around. Anyway, I just have two comments, Chair. First of all, echo the other committee chairs, just thanking officers and all members of the committee for the work that's happened over the last year. I think we've had some good meetings, and my thanks to Councillor Faruqi and also Councillor Britcher, who became an emergency chair when we needed to have an extra meeting. Myself and Councillor Faruqi were unavailable, so my thanks to everybody. The only comment I have is one that I made last year that I just want to echo again, which is I do feel that this committee is too large. When I was last on the council, it was a much smaller committee, and I understand it may have been increased in size to cover off some of the political rules, but to my horror and disgust, there are not enough people that are that obsessed with risk management, governance, audit and financial review. So I do think it would be better to have a smaller committee that is much more focused, and so this message is more to democratic services, that when you're doing your review of the next ones, that I think governance and audit needs to come down, because there was one meeting in the last year where we were not quora, and there were a couple where we were quite close. So I think a smaller committee would be better, but thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Do councillors have any comments? Thank you. Contract procedure rules. Councillor Yates, this is for you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to propose approval of the redrafted contract standing orders, CSOs, to be known as contract procedure rules, CPRs, going forward, following the implementation of the Procurement Act 2023, to ensure the Council's procurement activity remains fully compliant with the Act, which was implemented on 24th of February 2025. It is requested the full Council consider recommendations set out in the report and make any appropriate comments. I move the recommendations.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded. Thank you. Do councillors agree? Thank you. Item 14, licensing policy. Will councillors please note that there is no additional annex as noted within the agenda pack. An equalities screening tool was completed, and this demonstrated that there were no particular equalities implications arising from the report. I call upon Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. This report recommends the approval of the Statement of Licensing Policy, which will be in place for a period of 5 years. The policy will be kept under review during this time, and any changes to the Licensing Act will be implemented if required. The policy outlines how the authority will handle applications for licences and covers alcohol, public entertainment, club premises, late-night refreshments and temporary event notices. It promotes the following 4 licensing objectives: to prevent crime and disorder, to ensure public safety, to prevent public nuisance, and to protect children from harm, and it takes into account guidance notes published by the Secretary of State. A consultation process took place as required by the Licensing Act, and there were no representations received. I move the recommendation that full Council approves the Statement of Licensing Policy for the period 2025 to 30.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Do councillors agree? Thank you. Gambling statement of principles. Will councillors please note that there is no additional annex as noted within the agenda pack, as equalities screening tool was completed, and this demonstrated that there were no particular equalities implications arising from the report. Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. This report recommends approval of the Gambling Statement of Principles 2025 to 2028. The Gambling Act 2005 requires local authorities to have an approved published statement which sets out how we will carry out our duties as required under the Gambling Act 2005. The statement will be in place for 3 years. The statement helps guide decision makers, applicants and objectors about the decision-making process for the licensing of betting shops, bingo premises, casinos, amusement arcades and travelling fairs. A consultation process took place as required by the Gambling Act 2005, and there were no representations received. I move the recommendation that full council approve the gambling statement of principle 2025 to 2028.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Do councillors agree? Thank you. ECJERP, expansion report. I move that the recommendation as set out in the report be adopted. Would the Vice Chair please second?
Seconded.
Do councillors agree? Thank you very much. Calendar of meetings. I move that the recommendation as set out in the report be adopted. Would the Vice Chair please second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Do councillors agree?
Question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I was reading through the agenda earlier and I came across this item. It just concerns me that we only have 6 meetings in a calendar year. So which means, apart from tonight's meeting, it's 7 months. We are 7 months. We have 1 meeting in July, apart from the AGM. 1 meeting where we can ask questions. There's no other meetings that we can do that. I just think that there's a lack of scrutiny from the public when we just lack of meetings. You know, I just ask, can this go on the agenda for the next constitutional review for further discussions? I think we had discussed it informally recently at a constitutional review, but here we are with still 6 meetings. I don't think it'd be out of place for us to up that amount of meetings. I think if we did, then we wouldn't be here for 2 or 3 hours some evenings. That's just the comments I wanted to make.
I can give you some information. I know someone who can give you some information on that. Mr. Hughes.
I think, as I say, we can certainly add it to the agenda for constitutional review. I would say that we are not removing the budget meeting that we are removing from the calendar is not a meeting where members can ask questions or members of the public can submit questions. We're removing that meeting, so we are not reducing the number of opportunities from the current level that we have at the moment, but we can look at increasing that in the future. That's not a problem.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Notwithstanding what Mr Hughes has just said, I think we've expressed this before, and I don't want this to be a political point, but there is a huge void through the middle of the year in terms of opportunities to ask questions. And it seems ludicrous to go from a flurry of meetings in the springtime to then nothing now for 3 months and then nothing for another 2 or 3 months after that. There's an imbalance, and I think given our commitment to transparency following the IMO report and everything, engagement with the community is absolutely vital, and it's probably at a level that this authority's not enjoyed in the past, but we do as members have that relationship. But I think it's very important that instead of going from feast to famine, we actually have a better balance. And I think personally we need at least 1 more meeting in the year. And as my colleague has said, it would actually balance out the issues and the amount of time spent. So just for the record, yeah, I don't think we have enough, and I think we need at least 1 more full council meeting in order to ensure accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bright.
Yeah, I was just mindful of the meeting we had earlier on this month where I thought the level of debate was really strong, and I think as we move towards local government reorganisation, I think councillors are making good points there, and I agree that we should explore the opportunities.
Thank you. Councillor Everett.
Yeah, I think this is a good discussion to have, and as I've said previously to various people, it's not a decision for me, it's a decision for the council as to how many meetings it wants to have. I enjoy council meetings, so I don't mind how many we have. What I would say is that it's not a good idea to jam them together, and I think we've seen by the paucity of questions and the lack of motions on the agenda this evening, and even perhaps the leaders' report, which was shorter than the normal leaders' reports, that if you have one meeting on the 27th of February and another one on the 27th of March, that isn't necessarily useful. So I think spacing is as important as the number of meetings that we actually have. We previously had a meeting in September, and what we found, I think, on those occasions, that the October meeting was either redundant or got cancelled. So I think we need to think carefully about it, but I'm absolutely up for transparency and discussion. And I say to all members, you don't have to wait for a council meeting to ask questions. We're here all year round.
Does anybody else have anything to say on this? No, for the moment then, we can always change it at other meetings. So for the moment, do councillors agree? Thank you. That concludes the business for this meeting. Safe journey home.